Guess who's back? That's right, it's Jean Price. It's her new fall season, and she's ready with more real conversations with real people. So make sure to tune in this Wednesday to welcome back our host, Jean Price, on Real Talk with Jean Price.
This week on Real Talk with Jean Price.
I'm here to tell you the story of crazy love, a psychological trap disguised as love, one that millions of women and even a few men fall into every year. It may even be your story. In any domestic violence relationship is to seduce and charm the victim, is to isolate the victim. I had no idea I was falling into crazy love, that I was walking headfirst into a carefully laid physical, financial, and psychological trap. Instead, I was a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man, and I was the only person on earth who could help Connor face his demons.
Good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. This show is going to be thought-provoking. It's going to bring some awareness, some concern. It's going to talk about some real things, but most of all, it's going to be a story of survival. We want you to take the time now. Listen, thank you for joining us every Wednesday at 6:30. Thank you for your support. Thank you for always letting us know that we talk about real issues that affect real people. We want you to like, we want you to comment, we want you to share, we want you to put it right in the chat. You still have time to go and tell anyone that you know you don't want to miss tonight's show. Tonight we're going to be dealing with a very serious issue. We're going to talk about domestic violence. And first and foremost, I want to salute those that have survived it. I want to salute those that have been able to come out and share their stories. And they're able to go and help somebody else. It's so important to understand that domestic violence is something that is very hard to get through, but yet you can. And the young lady that I have on the show tonight is going to share the journey that it took her to get through domestic violence. We want you to sit tight. We want you to put your questions in the chat. We want you to put your comments in the chat. We want you to engage tonight on this very, very serious topic. I want to take this time to welcome my guest tonight. I would like to welcome Onika Beatty to Real Talk with Jean Price. Onika, come on, join us tonight.
Hello, how are you, Lady Price?
I'm doing great. I am doing so good. I am so glad you joined us tonight. I've been looking forward to this conversation because one thing about Real Talk is that we believe in the power of the message. And if your story, your journey can help save, if it's just one person, it's worth it all. And we have done our job. So Onika, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm married. I have 3 children, and I currently run a tech business, an all-female tech business at that. So I've been doing that for about 10 years. And I love to train other women to be able to take care of themselves. So, and I sub on the side. I'm a substitute teacher on the side as well. You know, business can have its ups and downs, its ebbs and flows. And so I also do that as well to supplement. So,
well, let's start right here. Before domestic abuse started in the relationship, what was your relationship like prior to the abuse?
It was magical, if I could say that.
Oh, I love that word.
I mean, I had never been in a relationship like that before in my life. Like, he literally swept me off my feet. And at that time, I was like in college. I was in my last year in college.
Okay.
And so, you know, I haven't had that many experiences with, you know, real mature relationships, if I can say that. But it was just the little things. And so because it was little things, I didn't think anything of it. It didn't seem like a red flag to me.
Mhm.
You know, he would, for my birthday, I went to Jamaica, you know, for graduation, he bought me diamond earrings. You know, if we wanted to go to the gym and we didn't have like gym clothes, we would go to the store and just buy clothes on the spot. Like it was things like that. And he paid, what I would say is he paid so much attention to me. Like I never had to like take public transportation anymore. He picked me up from school, he dropped me off, you know, all of those things. He kept money in my pocket. And I had never been in a relationship like that before. And all I wanted to do was spend my time with him.
Wow, wow, that's so real. So now you just painted a beautiful picture of what the kind of relationship most of us want as women and or men, but in this case, women. We want that kind of relationship, somebody that will sweep us off our feet, the one that the butterflies, you know, those butterflies in your stomach, the twinkling in the eye. We want those kinds of relationships.
Yes.
But I have to ask you, if it was like that, then how did it change?
See, I like to paint the picture like that because that is what most of us want.
That's it.
But we don't pay attention to the small things.
Okay.
When I said, you know, dropping me off and picking me up, and I no longer had to take public transportation, a normal person would think, you know, he's just taking care of me. He doesn't, you know, I don't have to spend my money. You know, I'm getting a ride there and back.
Mm-hmm.
That was his way of controlling my whereabouts.
That's right.
He knew where I was, where I would be. And if I wasn't there, he would know that as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Those type of things that he was doing, he was reeling me in. And I had no idea. The fact that I didn't even want to spend time with my friends anymore. He made our relationship so lovable that I didn't even think about them anymore. It was like nothing they can do for me at that point because I was having a good old time, you know? So that was him isolating me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The gifts, all of those things, like you said, is what we want. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Who doesn't want to go to Jamaica just out of nowhere? I mean, when I say out of nowhere, it's like, oh, your birthday is next week. Let's book the trip. It was like that,
Okay.
you know? And not knowing that he had just gotten a settlement for an accident that he had. So he didn't really even have money like that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You know,
blowing the settlement money.
You know, and we're going to go deeper because, you know, when my mind is sitting here like, I'm going like, it's just turning because I want to know, well, what was really operating in him that he felt that he had to control like that. But we going to wait. I'm not going to go ahead of myself because you said something that was so powerful. How literally those were the little traps.
Mm-hmm.
And you used the key word a few minutes ago, isolation.
Yeah.
Those were the key traps. He knew where you were without a shadow of a doubt. He showered you with gifts, which was like he kept you secluded in a sense, all to himself.
Right.
That then you began to feel like, oh yeah, it's about me and him. Now I kind of want to go a little deeper because we painted that picture. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
When was the first time he hit you, and what did you feel like?
Oh my!
Wow.
When I say he caught me off guard,
right,
it came out of literally nowhere. At that point, the first time, I was actually 6 months pregnant. Right. So this is a relationship that was only 6 months old before I found out I was pregnant. So I was only in this relationship for 6 months. I found out I was pregnant. We moved in with each other. And now I'm 6 months pregnant. So now we're a year in.
Right.
And we had just moved into our new apartment. And of course, you know, like I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm not going out again. I was used to being in the house because I was with him. But he was like a party promoter. So he would be out, all times of night at the clubs and things like that, right? So he came home, and at this time, I'm being very honest and I'm being real. Like I said, we had just moved into this apartment. So I was actually sleeping on an air mattress. He came in, and because I didn't do something that he asked, like he woke me up out of my sleep. And because I didn't do something that he asked, he just got up out of nowhere and slapped me.
Jesus.
I can't even remember what the reason was, but he did not like my response.
Okay.
That's what it was. He did not like my response.
Okay.
And from that point, when he slapped me, now I'm from Brooklyn. I don't know where you're from, Lady Price.
Long Island.
Okay, so then you're familiar with Brooklyn.
Yes.
Pregnant and all. He slapped me, and my reflex was to slap him back. And we began to tussle. But some way during that tussle, he knocked me out. Yeah. He knocked me out. And I woke up with the shower running on my face.
Not even knowing how you got there.
Not even knowing how I got there.
What were you feeling, Onika? What was going through your mind? Like, what were you feeling? What was your emotions like? Because that is just, first of all, scary. So what were you feeling?
I was, first of all, you're shocked. And then after you get over the shock, again, my reflexes kicked in to now want to fight. But after everything settles in, it's like you cannot even believe that this person that you love, that you're having a baby with, that you put everyone aside for, did that to you. And for what? You still don't even know why.
Right.
You have I didn't have a clue what I did, what I said. And that was my first incident. So I didn't have a clue on, defense mechanisms. What do I need to do to survive? That came later on. But that first incident, I had no clue what to do. I was scared. Scared. Mm-hmm.
So then, so I have to ask you, Nick, so how did he swing back into the person that just adored you? Like, I'm not saying he did, but how did he shift back into, babe, I'm sorry, or go back into the lovely man that you met? How did it shift?
They always shift. Okay.
That was the word.
It is a shift. And because this had never happened to me before, you don't think that it would happen again. I didn't have an example. I didn't know anyone that had ever experienced domestic violence before.
Right.
So when he woke me up with the shower, of course, now I'm confused. I'm not knowing what's going on. And he just, oh, babe, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I love you. Pussing all over me. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? Like all of a sudden, he turned back into the person that I knew him to be.
Right.
And when he turns back into the person that you know him to be, that's what you know.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. And it wasn't, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, okay, now I have a baby. I have, I'm 6 months pregnant. Where am I going?
Right.
We just moved into this apartment. I'm on my own now. We're doing this together. In my mind, I'm not thinking of leaving at that point.
Right.
I have no reason to, because he's very apologetic. Babe, I was drinking. I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me. He's hugging on me, and then automatically he wants to
right.
Yeah.
So
intimate.
Right. So then we go from that. How long was it from the first one did he do it again? I'm just curious.
Okay. The second time, my son was here.
No. Wow. Wow.
So from 6 months, the next time my son was here.
And what was the reason for that then? You still responded incorrectly, supposedly?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's always something that you want to do, but he doesn't want you to do.
Okay.
I think I was going someplace or wanted to take my son, and he didn't want me to take my son. He wouldn't allow me. Let me say that.
Right.
He wouldn't allow me to take my son.
Wow.
And so it began now to shift from trying to hurt me, now threatening to hurt my son. Right? So threatening to hurt my son. Now you're a mom. You're going to do everything you need to do.
Sure.
To prevent him from doing that.
Exactly.
So there was like an incident, like I said, where he didn't want me to take my son someplace. He held me hostage in my house for 4 days.
What?
4 days. And threatened that if I tried to leave, well, not even threatened. I'm sorry on that. He didn't threaten anymore.
Okay.
He for the first time, I found out that I had a gun in my house. And he put the gun in my mouth.
Excuse me for having my mouth open, bud. Wow.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that.
Wow, Onika. Wow. I can't even imagine what you must have been feeling within yourself. Then now you have your child, whom as a mom, as you say, you have to protect. I can't even imagine. What was the most difficult part of this whole thing? Like this journey? Like what was the most difficult part?
The most difficult part is that I'm only mentioning right now where we say the next incident.
Yes.
That's the next physical incident.
Okay. Okay.
In between there, you have now financial abuse where because I'm on maternity now, I don't have a paycheck. So now he's controlling the money. Or you have verbal abuse where he's just talking to me any old kind of way. If I burnt something, I'm the dumbest person in the world. How could you burn the rice? Or how could you, who burns boiled eggs? I'm just giving examples.
Of course.
That's, those are the type of things. It's like, you can't even do that right. To the point where there was a time when I would walk. I remember a specific incident. And when I say I have residue still from this day, it's because of these type of incidences that occurred back then. Now, mind you, my son is now 22 years old. So to still have residue from then is very traumatic.
Yeah.
So we were on the bus one day, and in the back of the bus, you have the seats here, and then you have the other seats, so you can see the people across from you.
Right.
And there was a guy that was actually sitting directly across from me. I didn't even want to make eye contact with him because I didn't want to argue with my son's father for him to think that I was trying to flirt with him or anything. Exactly. Jealousy was a big thing. So I would hold my head down because I did not want to make the eye contact with anyone because I didn't want to argue. I knew I was going home. I didn't want that. So I held my head down. That's how the incident happened. That's how the incident started. So, okay. So, it's all coming back to me.
Okay.
So we got off the bus, and that's when he told me, I saw you looking at that guy. I saw you looking at him. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, that is the one thing that I was trying to prevent. And he still said that that's what I was trying to do. And when we went upstairs, that was when he held me hostage.
Wow.
It wasn't even wanting to take my son someplace. I knew that was going to be the incident. And so I was ready to walk out the door with my son. And he told me I wasn't going anywhere. That's how it happened. So
after that, Onika, did you find it difficult? Because I've interviewed women that have gone through sexual abuse and different things like that. I'm a survivor myself, but did you find it difficult to leave? And what was it like when you, Onika, told yourself, you know what? He's not going to change. He has problems. I'm going to go into that issue too, because I got to ask the question about him. But what pushed you to the point, like, that made you say, you know, no, I'm at my breaking point. No. How did you get there, and how did you feel getting there?
That was the incident
Okay.
that, well, I can't say it was the catalyst who helped me leave. After that incident, again, none of my family knew that I was going through domestic violence. I went through all of this by myself. My mother, my sisters, no one knew this, right? So being held hostage in my house for 4 days, having a gun put in my mouth, all of those different things. I went to go and grab the phone. He pulled it out the wall. That's when we still had phones that plugged into the wall. You know, we still had house phones.
Right.
Pulled it out the wall so I couldn't make any phone calls. He did all of those things. And after being in my house for 4 days, he actually had to go to work. And when he went to work is when I went out.
Okay.
And we happened to have a family meeting. I went to like my family's house, and I went there and we started talking, and it came out. And I told them what was happening to me. Yeah.
What was their response?
It was overwhelming. Like, your mouth is open.
Yes. Again.
Everybody's mouth was open. They couldn't.
Wow.
My mother went from being angry at me for not telling her, right? Because I was going through all of this by myself. So it's like, why would you go through all of this by yourself and not tell any of us, Nika? Like, everybody at church calls me O, but my family calls me Nika. And she couldn't understand why I would stay in something like that, where I come from a loving family. You know, my mom has a house, my father has a house. I wouldn't be homeless, you know. And she just couldn't understand why I would just stay in a situation like that, and then let alone not say anything to anyone. He was mean. He would threaten me so much. I was scared to say anything to anybody. Like, I was literally scared to say anything. And so when it did come out, I didn't do anything right away, but I would tell you what was the catalyst. Like I said, when I told my mom, this one phrase helped me leave. And my mom said, you can get material things back, but you can't get your life back. And that was a aha moment. Wow. Because, you know, you thinking about, all my stuff is there. That's my apartment. I put all of that in there, you know. That's my furniture. You know, you're thinking about all of the wrong things. And when you she put it into perspective for me.
She did.
And she said, you can get material things back, but you can't get your life back. And that was the second incident so far. The first one, he knocked me out and the shower was running on my face. And the second one was, you held me hostage and you put a gun in my mouth. He also threatened to throw my son out the window. I mean, he threatened to kill my son, and I had thoughts of throwing my son out the window.
Right.
Because I needed my son to survive if I didn't. I was only on the second floor. So I figured if I wrap him up, you know, in a bunch of comforters, my son will survive because I'm only on the second floor. And when you start having thoughts like that.
Right. Because I was going to go there with that one. Like, when you start having those kinds of thoughts, you're definitely trapped. It's serious. My God. You know, we just had on the news, I don't know if you heard on the news this week, Onika, of a young lady actually out here in Long Island, I think it was Quorum, and she went to get her debit card or something from her boyfriend, and her friend was in a car with her, and the friend saw him kind of, you know, gesturing like that, thought he was punching her. He stabbed her 40 times. It was on the news this week. Yeah. And even as you're talking, I'm sitting here saying, but God, because you did not have to make it out of that alive. Now I know I'm supposed to go to commercial break, and my production team forgive me, but I am so intrigued by this. as you begin to come out and you're growing and you're realizing your own strength, because sometimes it appears like if you watch Medea, I forget which story it was, when the young lady realized that she was strong. When did you realize that, no, I'm not going to be afraid, I'm going to stand up for myself, right? And what did it make him feel like? Because when somebody knows that, you know, yo, wait a minute, she not afraid no more, I don't know, like, I better be real careful. What was it like?
I never gave him an inkling that I was going anywhere.
Wow, that's good.
Never.
Wow.
When my mother told me that, because she told me, like I said, she told me you can get material things back, but you can't get your life back. When I went home, in my mind, I was already calculating when was my last day and how was I getting.
So you were already gone.
I was gone by then.
Wow. Okay.
I'm telling you that one phrase was such an aha moment. A light bulb went off, and from there, I didn't care anymore.
Okay.
I didn't care anymore. I had the support of my mom. She called my dad, everything. So when I got home, I had, like I said, I gave him no inkling that I was doing anything, making not one move.
Right.
I gathered my documents. I put my documents together. I put a little baby bag together. And he was home. No, he was actually at work.
Okay.
At work. And I spoke to him regularly on the phone. I acted like nothing was going on. And I put that little bag together. I didn't take not one piece of clothing for myself. And
my Lord,
I just packed the baby bag and took our documents, had him some food for him, and I started walking. I called my mom, because my mom didn't live too far. Like, she lived maybe 5-10 minutes in a car. So 30 minutes walking, and I didn't have a car. So I took that stroller. I started walking with my son. And when I started walking, I called my mom and I said, "Ma, I'm gone. Meet me at such and such." She pulled that car up. I got in that car and she took me home. And she had already called my dad, and my dad had made his way to Brooklyn, and he took me to the 7-5 precinct.
Really? Okay.
He took me straight to the precinct, and I made a complaint there, and I told them what was happening to me in that house, and the cops came back with us. And when the cops came back with us, he still wasn't home, right? They took me home to go get some items, and when he came in the door, they had the guns drawn on him.
Wow.
And they arrested him right there.
And okay, now I got to.
Your mouth is still not open, because even with the cops there with his guns drawn, as they're putting a hand, before they can even put the handcuffs on him, this is what he did to me. So even with the cops there, he still threatened me.
He still threatened you. And did it right there in front of the cops.
Right there in front of them.
Listen, to my viewing audience, we want you to listen. This story, Onika this is a story. This is a journey and a story. But we want you to write something in the chat, and we're going to take a commercial break. We have some more questions. I know I personally do for Onika, because this story is absolutely amazing. You don't want to miss part 2 of this story with Onika Beatty about dealing with domestic violence. We'll be right back.
Guess who's back? That's right, it's Jean Price. It's her new fall season, and she's ready with more real conversations with real people. So make sure to tune in this Wednesday to welcome back our host, Jean Price, on Real Talk with Jean Price.
This week on Real Talk with Jean Price.
I'm here to tell you the story of crazy love, a psychological trap disguised as love, one that millions of women and even a few men fall into every year. It may even be your story. In any domestic violence relationship is to seduce and charm the victim, is to isolate the victim. I had no idea I was falling into crazy love, that I was walking headfirst into a carefully laid physical, financial, and psychological trap. Instead, I was a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man, and I was the only person on earth who could help Connor face his demons.
Welcome back to Real Talk. We've been having a wonderful discussion this evening dealing with domestic violence, talking about Onika Beatty, her story, her journey, what it's been like. And this topic has been so liberating in the sense that to hear somebody tell you their story and to see how they came through it. Listen, we want you to tune back in. You still have time with the last half an hour or 15 minutes or so of the show. Onika, I'm going to ask that you come back onto the show. This has been, wow. I think my mouth has been open so many times. I don't know if this is the first time, but my mouth has been just wide open. Before we went to the commercial break, Onika was sharing with us how the person that she went through domestic violence with that occurred upon her, even with the cops, he still threatened her. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Onika, we got that part of it. What happens after that?
So he does get arrested.
Okay.
He gets arrested and he was charged with like a misdemeanor. So he would go to jail and he would come out and then he would come right back to me. Yeah. Because when I left, I only went to my mom's house.
Yes.
My mom, like I said, only lives 5-10 minutes away from me.
Right.
So he knew exactly where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And just long story short, after I left, he stalked me for another 1.5 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How did you deal with that, though? I mean, just having to look over your shoulders, not knowing. How'd you get through that?
Exactly what you said. We're always looking over my shoulders when I walk. The first time I used to work for the fire department of New York, and in the back of and I worked in the Bronx during that time. Mm-hmm. And in the back of the ambulance, like, you know, you can open the doors. Back then they had the thing where you could pull it up, but you can open the doors. And so he somehow got my coworkers to hide him in the ambulance and had them like to surprise me and had them come and get me and say, we got something for you, come to the ambulance or something like that. So they got me to come to the ambulance. He got them to do that. I get to the back of the ambulance and they open the door and it's him on his knee trying to propose. I ran off.
Right.
I'm like, oh, no, you didn't. I ran off. My coworkers obviously didn't know what was going on because they would not have done that.
Right.
I went inside. I told my boss that I had issues with him, that he was just arrested for domestic violence for messing with me. They immediately got him off of the premises. They all apologized because they didn't know. And I wasn't mad at them.
Of course.
Just to see how cunning he really is. Like, people think that people with domestic, but they think that, oh, you have domestic violence, you have anger management problems. No, they know how to manage the problems very well.
Manipulation.
Most people don't even think they have it in them. Who? That person? He hit me.
Right.
Yes, him.
Wow.
You know? Yes.
Right.
He hides it so well, you wouldn't even think that he was that type of person. But
so let me ask
you, a monster behind doors.
Right. So let me ask you this then. So 1.5 years of being stalked. Here you are. How did it end? I guess it's just as simple as that.
It ended because he was nonstop. He was, when I say consistent, he was consistent, persistent. He was all of the above. Like, he would come to my house. I would call the cops. and he would get arrested, and then he would get another misdemeanor. He would get out, come back to my house. I would call the cops, and he would get arrested again.
Mhm.
And it got to a point where they have this law that if you have 3 misdemeanors, you get bumped up
Yes.
to become a felon. So
Okay.
now
Wow.
he's a felon because he had 3 different
Right.
misdemeanors.
Mhm.
But like I said, he would go to jail. He would come out in a day or two. He come right back to me.
My
One
God.
thing that I did not stop doing was I never stopped calling 911.
Right.
Once I left, it
Wow.
was no more, babe, I'm sorry.
Right.
I didn't want to hear that anymore.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I was done. It was
Mhm.
over. So he never had a chance to get, to reel me back in
Okay.
because I was gone already. Like
Right.
when I left, that was my first time leaving and that was my last time leaving. Like I never attempted to leave and then went back. I never did that. That was the first time I left and I never went back. It took a lot for me to get to that point. So I'm not saying, because I did stay for a very long time. But
Right.
when I was fed up, I was fed up. And it was
Okay.
his parents would call me, people would call me, stop calling the cops on him. And I would say, tell him to stay away from me. Tell him stop coming over.
Right. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
coming from, I eventually got an order of protection.
You
I
did.
went, when you go to court, they offer you 3 different things. They offer, they tell you can get an order of protection, you can get child support, and what is the other one? There are 3 different ones. It's an order of protection, child support, and something else. Visitation or something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I wanted the order of protection and
Okay.
I didn't want the child support. Not
Just
once.
to break that connection, so there's
I
no
didn't
connection.
want it. I
Okay.
wanted nothing from him.
Right.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Oh,
Okay.
custody. That's what the third one is. Custody.
Custody. Where is he now?
You want me to be honest?
If you want to be. Well,
Yeah, I
it's
can
your
be
call.
honest.
Your call.
God don't like ugly. He is what you would call a homeless person begging in McDonald's.
Really?
Yes. He is the homeless person that's asking you to pump your gas.
To pump your wow.
He is the homeless person that's sleeping on the train.
Wow.
He is that person that's in and out of jail that's pumped with medication because
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's who he is now.
Mm. Wow. So based on, oh my God, based on this story, based on this journey, because it's more than a story, it's a journey. How have you grown today?
It took some time.
Okay.
From the time that I left,
Mm-hmm.
um, I they the DA, the court system, they will set you up with a counselor,
Okay.
a social worker. So I did meet with a social worker. She helped me in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That was very helpful because at that time I felt like my judgment was off.
That's interesting. Oh,
How, yeah, how
yeah.
could I pick someone like this?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I had a hard time. I didn't want to date because I didn't trust my judgment
Okay.
anymore.
Wow.
I no longer knew or thought that I could pick correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even want to date.
Right.
I joined a few domestic violence support groups, things of that nature. I even started a company back then. That was my very first company that I started. It was called Fed Up NYC.
Wow.
And it was basically like a referral service or an advocate for people that were going through domestic violence to be able to give them resources and support them and to, help them navigate the court system and things like that. So that was my very first business. It was called Fed Up NYC. And when I say I was fed up, I was fed up. So yeah, so that was my journey. Counseling is what helped me. Um, yeah, I just have to say it was counseling.
That's
I
beautiful.
literally have to say it was counseling. And it
Wow.
took some time. Even when I did start dating again, I would unconsciously do things to the person or the guy, I could say the
Mhm.
guy, you know,
Right.
um, that I would purposely do something to them to see what their anger level was
I
like.
understand. Yeah, I see what you, yeah. Okay.
I had to know now what I was dealing with.
Right.
So I would push them to see how angry they would get, to see if I can deal with their anger.
Right.
You
Right.
know, my husband always tells me, you know, you can deal, everyone has their certain level of crazy.
Mhm.
He's like, I can deal with your crazy. You know, everybody has a certain level of crazy.
Absolutely.
I had to see what their crazy level was. I could not go through
Right.
that again.
Right.
And those were some of the defense mechanisms that I began to build up.
Right.
Um, and I began to push people away from me. People that really cared about me, I would push them away.
Right.
Um, and that's how I survived until I met my husband years later. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
If there's somebody, Onika, that's going through this, they're
Mhm.
listening to your voice, your story, your journey, saying, man, this whole, like they're looking at you like, wow, she's this beautiful Black woman that I know I can get through this.
Mhm.
Looking at your, how you survived it, how you changed the way you thought about things. What would you say to them?
It wasn't something that happened overnight, and domestic violence is not a respecter of persons.
That's
It can
good.
happen to anybody.
Hmm.
So it's not that you're dumb. It's not, like I said when I started off, how I even got wrapped up into this is
Hmm.
because it is the dream that we all have as women,
Right.
um, for our guy to just really just take care of us. And but without motives, you know, like we think that those are things that we want, but we are not. I don't think we think that far, because I don't think that we don't want the finer things in life or a guy to sweep us off our feet with conditions to it. Like we don't think that, oh, if you do this, but you won't hit me, you
Right.
know.
Right.
These
Right.
you know,
Yes.
do this, but don't do that. Like that's not how we grew. You know, we don't grow up to want to be married someday and want the house and the, you know, with the picket fence and the dog and all of those things, and have in the back of our mind that he's going to be abusive.
Right.
That's not what we think.
Yeah.
So when he was doing all of those things, I had no idea that he was pulling me into his web
Yeah.
until a little while later. And then I began to walk on eggshells. Now it's like I have
Mhm.
to watch what I say because that might trigger him. And I have to, you know, do so many different things just so I don't make him angry and make him upset. And that was my way of life. So I just want to say, like, it's it's not you, but if I was told a little bit, even what I'm saying right now, if someone would have even shared what
Right.
isolation really means, you know,
Right.
some
Right.
of these things that I think that I probably would have looked at him sideways
Hmm.
a little bit, you know, like, why are you doing all of these things? Like, what do you want?
Right. Right.
When someone is trying to give you so much so quickly, that's another red flag, you know. Sometimes, you know, we feel like we all have to work for something, right? Like
Mhm.
no one is literally going to just give us everything just like that.
Right.
And it's, you know, I used to think that I was naive. I don't think that it is a little bit of it
Naivety.
is a little bit.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but again, it's because of we're women and it's how we this ideal or idea of what a relationship is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's why I say it can happen to any of us.
Anybody.
It can
Anybody.
happen rich, poor, black, white,
Yeah.
educated,
Yeah.
GED. It
Yeah.
really doesn't matter. I just think that we just need to be more diligent in letting people know some of the red flags.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
and yeah.
Well, Nika, we want to thank you tonight. First, we salute you, as I said backstage, for your courage, for just being so transparent, because one thing is beautiful about when people are transparent, it's real.
Right.
And I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. I'm one of those people when I hear things like this, if somebody that didn't hear today might want to hear it tomorrow. So we got to have you to come back on the show, not just about sharing your story, but about helping somebody get through it. And if you know someone and you're listening to my voice and you heard Anika tonight, you know somebody that's going through domestic violence, or you might be going through yourself, listen, there is a 1-800 number you can call. It's 800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-7233. You can get through it. You have people like Onika as support. You have other people that have gone through it. They can lead you and guide you through it. Anika, again, thank you so much for being on Real Talk, because that's really what it's about. We're talking about some real stuff, some real stuff, and we just want to thank you again. So again, thank you to our viewing audience. We invite you to come back again. We want you to come on Real Talk next Wednesday at 6:30. You never know who's going to be a guest on our show. And again, we want Anika to come back again and be a guest, because we want to hear more about her story, because we want to be able to help somebody get through domestic violence. Thank you again, Onika. To my viewing audience, have a good night.
This week on Real Talk with Jean Price.
I'm here to tell you the story of crazy love, a psychological trap disguised as love, one that millions of women and even a few men fall into every year. It may even be your story. In any domestic violence relationship is to seduce and charm the victim, is to isolate the victim. I had no idea I was falling into crazy love, that I was walking headfirst into a carefully laid physical, financial, and psychological trap. Instead, I was a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man, and I was the only person on earth who could help Connor face his demons.